Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Transformation podcasts. Today's guest has one of those careers that gives you multiple perspectives and makes you rethink your assumptions about work. He is a director of engineering at Lyft, advises startup founders, including those building companies from inside prison through Defy Ventures. And before work, he used to teach third graders to code. And that combination is not accidental. It reflects a worldview that I find genuinely rare in tech leadership, and that building systems, whether it's engineering systems, organizational systems, or community systems, is fundamentally a human design problem. And that AI, for all its power, doesn't change that. If anything, it makes it more urgent. So today we're going to get into what it actually looks like to redesign an organization around AI without losing the humans inside it. We're going to talk about ethics, not as compliance requirement, but as a design principle. And we're going to ask what it really takes to build communities that stay human-centered when the tools are changing faster than the people. I am delighted to welcome Bala Muthiah, startup advisor, educator, and director of engineering at Lyft. Bala, welcome to Let's Talk Transformation.
Thank you. Thank you for such a warm welcome and introduction. Thanks, Susie. I'm very happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know from our discussions before the episode that your quest is driven, Bala, by this one single consistent belief. So systems only work when the humans inside the systems are seen, valued, and allowed to grow. Such an important quest for the future of organizations. And as we discussed before the show, the time is now. So can we start, Bala, with what I call the system beneath the system? So, as we know, often in digital transformation, we focus on the legacy systems, what we do with them, how we integrate them. But the system underneath, for me, is the human legacy systems. So, you've led teams in early stage startups, enterprise platforms, large organizations, very different environments. So, what's the signal you look for first when you arrive somewhere new to understand whether the organizational system is healthy or in distress?
Very, very true point. And like you said, this is a great time and the most important time to be talking about it, right? With the where the world is going. To answer your question, the meta point is it's always about humans, right?
Yeah.
It's always about we as people and what are we doing in this earth, right? In this world.
Mm.
So it's always about humans. Anything we do, any solution we do, anything we do, it's always human. So start from there. Like if whenever I walk into a new company, new team, or
Mm.
helping a new startup,
Mm.
its first step is to understand the people, meaning what motivates them. Like why
Mm.
are they coming to work every day? Like why do they show up? Of course, incentives, motivations are very hard to grok. You can't put
Of
a
course.
number or a scale,
Mm.
but trust me, this is my humble learning that people will tell you without telling you. They will tell you
Right.
why they are there, what is driving them, and why they want to be there. And another counter signal, like which is more on the other side, is when people leave the company, right? Like we often ask, hey, there's an exit interview process. We ask them, oh, what made you leave? Like what made you come to this choice? Is there anything we can do? At that point, it's often too late.
Yeah.
Ideally, the question should start when you are within the system, within the company, to start asking, why are people here? Why
Mm.
is this person working here? If you can understand that better, then you can avoid the conversation on why do you want to leave, right? So that's my toolkit that has always worked for me.
So that anticipation of making sure that the environment is okay for the person up front. And so if you're building a team inside a fast scaling company, which of course is happening more and more today, what's the first human condition for you, Bala, that you have to establish before anything else?
I want to use the word environment. I'm
Mhm.
carefully using this because I was almost going to use culture. But then
Yeah.
culture could be misinterpreted in so many different ways, right?
Mm.
Depending upon who you are, how you think about it, depending upon the political climate, it could be interpreted in so many ways. But when I talk about culture, what I mean is the environment. It's how are we to each other, and how are the things there set up? How can someone thrive, succeed, or not? And how can someone be their best in that environment, right? So that's the fundamental formula as a leader someone should establish. Make sure that environment and the culture is there, that is going to make people grow, going to make people want to be there. Without that, nothing else is gonna matter, or it will be short-lived. Yes, you can throw a lot of money, you can throw a lot of incentives and perks or goals that will align, but it's all gonna be short-lived. It's not gonna be sustained, long-lived. So this is the first thing someone should look for. This is also agnostic of what kind of team, right? Whether you are a junior team, senior team, you are a tech team, non-tech team, doesn't matter. Whether you are in a company or in a community, nonprofit, everywhere, like government, everywhere, it's the environment and the culture that matters more.
Mm. And what does AI bring to that? Because if I look at, AI enters an organization and for me, it immediately starts revealing what was already broken. So,
Yes,
the patterns of what's being done, and when you automate, that's what's left, and you can see what's going on. But what does that mean for the culture, when you bring AI in and look at, what you need to do to make sure that people are trusting in whatever you
yes.
decide to do with AI?
Yeah, no, very, very relevant point now, right? Most of us, even I have been thinking about this way, like AI as a tool to do something, to get something faster, efficient. But more and more, I see people using it, right? Starting from founders or in within the company or outside, right? So many
Mm,
people I talk to outside. It has come to me as the closest comparison I have is AI is in a complex world, it's an X-ray machine. It's going to show what's there, what's broken, like you mentioned, or what
mm,
is looking good. Or in a very simple word, it is a mere mirror. It's a reflection. It's going to show what your organization is going through. You would eventually find this out even without AI, but it's going to take a lot of time for you to find out what is
mm,
broken. But now
mm,
with AI, it's more like steroid, right? You kind of put the
mm,
you inject it and everything goes fast and effectively and efficiently, and then it showcases what are broken, because you might think, oh, this is an area I believe needs uh, increased velocity or speed, and then once you do that, you would assume, oh yes, we are going to solve problem. Like when we started uh, as an industry in this, we thought, oh, okay, we can ship faster, that's going to solve all the problems. Then it comes to, oh, it's not about creating things faster, it's about making sure everything comes together.
mm,
So it's not going to make anything. So that is where the human aspect comes in. So you are going to, if you're purely using AI as a tool without looking deeply into how your organization is built, without looking at the reflections it is showing you, you are just optimizing for one thing, and it's going to move the bottleneck. It's not going to solve the bottleneck, it's going to move it to somewhere else, then you go
mm.
fix it there. So
And
that's the understanding increasingly it is coming up.
and if I come back to the idea of culture and you introduce AI into a low trust culture, it doesn't fix the trust, does it? It just automates around it, as you just said. What does that look like inside a team, and how can we interrupt it, Bala, before it becomes structural?
Yes, it is a hard problem, right? Like it is not like I'm to be honest, it's not that I have a silver bullet to give. We are all figuring it out together,
Of course,
right?
of
No
course.
one can say, hey, this is exactly how it's going to predict or like happen and predict. What we thought 6 months ago is no longer the case now. Things have changed. So coming to your point on trust, right? The whole team, the fundamental of any team to be successful is trust. Like if
Yeah.
even if you take a sports team, you go into the field and then you start playing. The first thing is any sport, right? The first thing, any team sport, is not about how good you are. It's more about how trustworthy everything is. So when you pass a
Mm,
ball, when you hit a ball, you are having the trust that the other person is going to get it, and you know where they are and you go and meet them. So that is a trust. So translating that into organizations, how we build things with AI coming into picture, there are two trust aspects. One is us trusting AI as a system, right? Oh, can it do a
yeah.
good job?
Yeah.
Can it do a job that is acceptable? Quality is good, all those things. The next thing is, oh, someone else is using AI and their work is coming out. How much I trust that? So one is me directly using it and me trusting the output of that. Then me trusting my team member who is also in turn trusting their system to do. It sounds all complicated, but it is pretty much same thing what we have been doing as leaders before. Back in
Mm,
when someone starts their career, we start as an individual contributor, right? We do our work,
Yep.
so we know what our work is. I fully trust the output, and I know what's broken, what is not.
Mm.
When we start working with somebody else, we trust the person, and then they trust their work, so inherently we trust their work, right? So that's
Yep.
how it builds. And as you grow as leaders, you don't have direct access to the work, but you have access to your people. So you trust your people, and then they trust the work, and then it scales. So it's pretty much, now that AI has changed that layer, and now we need to make decisions faster, because things are going to come to your table much faster than before. You might not have an opportunity or the luxury to go build a trust before I can solve a problem. So you need to build it outside of the conversation. You need to build it outside of the transaction that is happening at work.
Mm. And that sounds like a simple and logical process, Bala. And I know that you've worked with Defy Ventures, so building entrepreneurship programs with incarcerated founders, building trust, a culture of feedback and genuine ownership and accountability in that environment. What are your learnings from there, and why do we still not manage to do that in
Yes.
organizations, in your view?
Yes. The first part, what did I learn is, I think when I first went to this place, right, I had my bias, right?
Mm,
So
like
I come
everybody does.
from, yes, before I started volunteering with them, my thinking was, oh, someone did something wrong, and they are getting uh, repercussion for that. They're getting punished, or it's a sentence that they have been given and they have to serve,
Yeah.
right? It's clear, black and white. But when I go and I talk to them, and when I see the conditions that made them get there,
Mm,
right? And oftentimes it is that one bad decision at that one spur of the moment that is pretty much what is used to define their entire life. And we are labeling them and kind of describing them for the worst moment in their life. Imagine if we are talking about, when we are talking about us, and if we are identified for the worst thing that we did versus everything else. So that is what we are doing to the folks. And that gave me a good insight when I started bringing those lessons back on. When we talk about it within workspace, right? When something goes wrong, when we are having a retrospective on, okay, what broke, and a reflection exercise, we talk a lot about blameless retrospectives and environments and stuff, but ideally it goes into trust too. Like, don't think about the action from the person, like disassociate it.
yeah.
Look at the action and assess objectively, and then, if of course it's a repeated pattern from the same individual, it's a different story, we can go and coach
Yeah.
and correct.
Mm,
But stop defining someone for one thing that they did. That should not be defining the whole situation. So that's one. The second part of your question, why is it hard to bring it in, why is it hard to bring up? In a way, going to these correctional facilities and stuff, we are in a way detached, right? You see it as a third person, you see it as something, oh yeah, it is very easy to forgive someone when your own thing is not on the line, like when
mm,
the impact doesn't affect you. Oh
yeah.
yes, you did something to somebody else, and then someone told you to do this now, so you're going through it. Okay, I can see you, I empathize.
Yeah.
But when the impact is shared, when you and I share that impact, when I make something wrong, and when you see the impact affecting you too, it's going to be really hard, right? It's not easy
Yeah.
to, just like that, give up, or like, I forgive you, I empathize, it's okay. And it's not about all forgiveness and ruinous empathy, right? It's not about, oh, everything someone does is right.
Mm,
It is about understanding and purely assessing. That is why it is hard, because we are on the line, there's a stake for us. And that's where we should, again, disassociate, like delineate people and actions, and then focus on that and keep an eye.
mm. And I love this conversation because it's wholly about human behavior and human
Yes.
interaction. And I love the fact that it's about taking a step away from your own bias, which is easy to say and hard to do. And,
Yeah.
we all have that instinct to go straight to our bias because that's the system one of your brain. Um, And it brings me to just to come back to the AI environment that is being created in this hybrid workplace. A lot of organizations are treating AI governance as a legal question or a tool question. And as we've just discussed, it's a human systems and therefore a behavioral question as well. Um, what's the difference in practice for you, Bala? Who should be in the room around AI governance, and what behavior will enable that?
The answer to that question is everyone should be in the room.
Mhm.
It is going to be hard,
Yeah,
but this is where I want us to all use AI itself to solve the problem, right? Before, if we were to form a governance committee and I need to bring all the 100 people that is working in a company, it's not going to be possible.
yeah,
Now, ability to quickly share something out to all 100 people and quickly iterate and get feedback is much more easier, right? It's not that every decision has to be going through all the 100 people. As long as we have the perspectives and insights of all the 100 people. And when I say 100 people, these are not the 100 people that are working in your company. These are people that are also outside of your company, who are your customers,
right.
right?
Mm,
Because government is going to come up with laws and compliance and all those things at a certain rate and pace because they have a lot on their plate to do. So it's up to us as leaders to step up and stay ahead, right? Not using compliance as a guardrail, right? Like, don't think, oh, this is yes or no, this is a gray line, not red taping. This is more end of the day, whatever we are doing, how is it going to impact a human being? Are
yeah,
we doing the right thing? Are we judging? Because AI, we keep talking about it as an entity. We think AI is a thing, but it's end of the day a piece of code which is trained on certain things. It's not an
mm,
entity on its own, right? We are giving life to it without knowing by referring it to as something versus it is actually a thing. Yeah, it's a piece of code. So we put power to it. So we can put more to it, like without optimizing for the one or the other. So in real world, yeah, thinking about compliance as more for humans and how it's going to help humans in the long run. Like we can have a lot of technologies and tools and stuff. End of the day, I tell this to my team too, or like everywhere I talk to people. Me stepping out of my home, taking like a car or something to go get a cup of coffee or like pick up some groceries. This is the whole supply chain
yep,
from my decision on how I
yeah,
get influenced all the way what car I pick to go, where I go, what I buy, how I drink it, how I enjoy it. Everything is all where the industries come in. But don't forget that you are end of the day going to get a coffee and that what matters.
yeah.
Everything else is going to augment and that's a human element. So we have to take care of that piece and everything else will fall in place.
Mm. And I love the idea of concentrating on the outcome, which is
Yeah.
in this case the human element. But you lead, teams that are actively building AI-powered systems with real-time decisions. Um, and I want to come back to the ethical compliance part of this. What ethical questions keep you up at night, Bala, that the industry is maybe not having the conversation loudly enough around the ethical questions of AI-powered systems?
Yeah, I mean taking a step out of my work
Yeah,
too, right? Because this is much more beyond like I'm working with some of the founders, like talking to them as a
of
mentor.
course.
One thing that has come up, I'm actually impressed by the new generation, how they are doing these things because they come out of the traditional leadership mindset, which we all, at least which I grew up in, right? What is
Mm,
the conventional leadership means. But for new generation is very different. They don't care about winning or success as the only thing. They care about a lot of different things. And earlier, this is in human history, right? When we are early in our teen and college and those days, like 15 to 25, every individual is very revolting. They want to change the world. They go out to go do protest and stuff.
mm,
And then you slowly start getting into your job and then you get married. Then your world shrinks and it becomes your family. Right? Your family is your world.
mm,
But when you start, it's more like the world is your family, like which is very different. And then family becomes your world. This has always been the case, but the only difference with the current new generation is they have the tool and power and access, which the generations before did
different.
not have.
Yes.
When we were doing that, it's not very easy to start a company.
No.
But in kids growing up in 20, like graduating in 2010, they had more power with internet and mobile and stuff. Now there is even more power. So
Mm,
when it comes to again ethics and what should be mattering, they are already thinking a lot about how is it gonna impact everyone. For me to directly what I use as an example is whether I'm building a company or building something, I can't have a great house in a street if the street is not good.
Mm.
I cannot be living in a street where only my house is good and everything else is such a mess. Like then I don't want to live in that street. I don't want to live in the neighborhood, and it continues to expand. So people, yes, I want a nice house, but my street should be nice. So I should start doing something so the street is nice, and then that translates to neighborhood, city, country, and the world. So that is the framework I use. So are you doing something that's going to make the whole street nice or just your own house nice? If this is a factor in your decision making, then it's easier. Or else the way things are getting evolved these days, it's so rapid. Like all the frameworks and
Yeah.
tools that we have is not going to scale. So
Mm.
go back to human, and that will guide you to create new tools on the fly.
And that framework, is that your predictor of successful growth, Bala? Because if I look, you teach kids to code before they go to work, you mentor early career professionals, you advise founders. So across all of that, um, there must be one thing that predicts for you whether growth is going to be successful or not.
Yeah, I think growth is collective development. That's how I define.
Oh, nice. I
It's
like
we
that.
should
Mm.
grow as a community. We should grow as a humanity, right? We cannot succeed individually. A lot of leadership um, strategies, techniques today that we have conventional are all in a way top down. If you go back to history and look
Totally.
at the academic research, it's all
Mm.
very kingdom and war based. Like
Yeah.
I need to go and compete and then win and take over
Mm.
somebody.
Ego
So
based.
that's a war strategy. Ego, exactly, ego based. That's how it has always been, and they broke down the war strategy into leadership strategy, and then kind of converted that into things, and that's what is being taught in school and everywhere. And now the world is changing because access is not central; it's like decentralized. So everyone is going to have equal power. So everyone cannot go at war with everybody. So now think about what is collective good and how do we develop as a whole. That is growth and that is success.
Mm. And if I come back to the idea of ego-led, we're now moving from ego to eco. And I just want to touch
Yes.
on the idea of community as infrastructure, Bala, because I'm a big believer in human systems, of course, but the relational and emotional infrastructure that you can put into human systems. What is a community for you in the functional sense? So what has to be present for it to actually be a community rather than just a group of people sharing Slack or some other technical platform?
Yes, yes. I think community often, like you said, right? Like community is not communication, right?
Mm.
Today we think, hey, if I am enabling 10 different people to communicate effectively, then I have established a community. Like community is a living thing. There is an ether to it. Like community is what do I do for others when I'm not asked to do that for them, right? You ask me something, I do it for you. Like that is not community, right? That is, yes, you live next to me, or you owe me something, or I owe you something. But community is more, what am I doing for you without you asking, just by knowing you? If everyone does that, like if we are giving before we are taking, that is community, and it's going to grow. And this will be like this will result in sharing, this will result in like collective gains, right? So one of the aspect of community is the collective gain, which we
Mm.
often, like humanity today has evolved from whatever time it was and place it was because of community. Because we were there, we built a trust network, we were able to share the resources and grow, defend ourselves, like back in from stone age to all the way now. Then it became territorial, then it becomes an anti-pattern. Started like,
Mm.
oh, I trust you, I'm going to be with you, to, oh, you are not with me, I'm not going to trust you. So then the us versus them, the bias, everything started creeping in.
Mm. And I think, to come back to the technical side of platforms, you can create belonging and community on a technical platform as well. Can you give us some pointers, Bala, as to how to do that more intentionally in terms of how to engage the human systems, but on a platform?
Yes, yes. Today, as you mentioned, within an organization, like there are a lot of tools and like systems or platforms that are there, but they're very goal oriented.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm very, I would say, intentional about how we work, where we work, and all those things. I some of the things that have come as a advantage in remote working has also come at as a cost, right? It is costing us in terms of building that community. If I see you in person, it's going to be very different versus me
Of
seeing
course.
you in a
Yeah,
screen,
of
right?
course.
But there is definitely a benefit, right? It has enabled so many people to get into workforce, and
Totally.
it has prevented so many people from leaving the workforce. Hey,
Mm, mm,
I can work from anywhere, so I'm going to work from anywhere, right? Instead of leaving because I cannot work, come into work. So totally is there. So when things are distributed, this is where systems come in, and this is where leaders come in. Like leaders should show up. A leader should not show up only on an all hands or a company meeting and then just go. Like they have to talk to people, they have to make random conversations, which is more easier now. Like
yeah.
back in the day, the corner office system is not there now.
Yeah.
So you talk to people, you create a Slack message to someone in your team, in your other team, strike a conversation that
Mm,
will open up. It's again, it is gonna, this community is gonna come down to how we keep the conversation going, like where it is, how it is, and make it more visible and aware. Then people can contribute and chime in. Like that will naturally build the community. Community is going to be with interaction.
mm, mm. And, because I see quite a few communities today in organizations that I feel are actually just control. So it's, communities of practice that start out as communities of practice, and things like that. But how should I be intentionally showing up as a leader, therefore, in these communities when I don't have a lot of time, but I do actually want to invest as a human in this community?
Yeah. There are two things I could think of, right? One is, of course, time is a big thing. Definitely,
Mm,
you have to carve out time. It's not going to be freely available for
mm,
anybody, especially in the modern world, right? So, first is intentionally making time for it. And it's also, I would say, like a chicken and egg problem, right? Because one, people don't, especially leaders, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about how we want to show up everywhere, right? We know we are very careful about how we want to show up to a meeting, how we want to show up to an external event. Like we want to stay on top of things, understand, be the person who asks the right question. We do a lot of preparation.
yeah.
And we take the same framework when we want to talk to somebody randomly in an organization. We think, hey, I should show up as a leader all the time. If you are a leader, you don't have to show up as a leader all the time in every conversation. If you're
Mm,
having a coffee conversation, you are not expected to come there and keep questioning, right? Like as a leader, you can do that inside your boardroom. But when you are in a coffee water cooler with somebody, or in a random Slack or any conversation with someone, you can be yourself, like not the title or the leader. We have often had this thing bestowed upon us that, oh, if you get too casual, if you get too normal, then people won't respect you. It's actually counterintuitive. Now folks want more access to leadership. They want to talk and understand where you are, understand who you are, like what you are thinking. So making time, we don't make time because we think, oh, every conversation has to be prepared and tailored, and I don't have enough time
and
to do that.
polished. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm,
and then we give up on that, and then we never make time. But if you know that, hey, you can just be yourself, just come in like how you're going to walk your dog with your neighbor, then it's much more easier. You don't have to prepare. Then your calendar will respect that and automatically make time for that.
mm. And I think as a leader, you're always part of a larger system,
Yeah.
um, wherever you sit in that system. And I know you describe leadership through systems thinking, and I don't think all leaders do see systems thinking as their leadership, and they experience their organizations as politics, chaos, something more linear. How do you teach someone to see the system beneath that noise? Where would you start, Bala?
A simple technique that I was told by one of my leaders is, it starts with communication, right? Like when something is presented, like when you're talking about, oh, we need to do this because so and so want this, then you're automatically now putting your blocks and you're creating silos, right?
Yeah.
So we need to do this is like because someone else wants it. No, this has to be done because the business wants it,
Mm,
because this is the right thing to do as an outcome for the company or for the business or for the initiative, anything that you're doing. takes away a lot of people, then there's no we and you and us. And you mentioned about ego, right? Like that
Yeah.
is all taken out here. So once we make it more objective, removing the subjects in a sentence, that is a quick framework. Like a leader taught me that, oh, this is a good framework. Instead of telling X, the subject wants an object, like just remove the subject. Like what is the situation? That is really gonna change the perspective. Then it becomes less about who and who is winning, more about what is great, what we should do now. So
And
that's
the
one system to think about and remove
mm,
the people thing. Again, I'm telling that remove the people only because it's gonna create and creep bias in.
yeah.
But end of the day, we are doing it for the people. That's a different story. But you're not doing it for an individual in a team, but you're doing for a customer who you
Mm,
are going to solve for, or doing it for the community, which is group of people.
mm. Which is a whole different paradigm, isn't it? In terms
Yes.
of the system, but also in terms of, the rituals and how we run that system and what model is behind that business model, but also human systems model.
Yes, very much. We are not trained to that, right? Again, if you go
Mm.
back, it all comes from war strategy. Like most of these things are coming from competitiveness versus collectiveness.
Mm. And we have an opportunity here, don't we, to um, rethink and maybe re-pioneer organizational design and the way that's happening.
Yes, 100%. Especially with AI now, the skills part is becoming, I would say, more democratized,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We all can do a lot of things now, which was not possible before. So we had certain people to do certain things, and we only relied on that. And in a way, we stopped relying on the people. We only go to someone because they had something, because they had a special skill, and you want that skill. So you involve that person.
Mm.
Then you started assessing. Then now you know you are going to go beyond the skill the person has for the other competitive like hard skills. You're going to go for smart skills. Someone is good at problem solving. AI is good at problem solving if you define the problem well. So the real
Yes.
challenge here is who can define the problem, right? So
Mm.
you go to a person who is a problem solver. You go to a person who is a connector. You
Mm.
go to a person who is a resolver. Like, so this is why people become even more important now, because everyone can do the skills in a way. Almost 80% of that could be covered. So you don't need nuances and niches, but the people aspect, the connecting the tissue is the key. And that's why humans become even more center of this whole new way of working, new
Mm.
way of doing things.
And asking the right questions, as you say,
Yeah.
and finding the right problems to solve. Bala, what's your vision? If I look at, the kids you taught to code, they're now running organizations in 2030. What would those organizations look like?
Organizations, again, I'm just pulling my prediction out of this now.
Yes.
I'm just as good as everybody else in terms of predicting what's going to happen, but I definitely see a lot of good that AI can bring in.
Mm.
And what I want to do or want to see come together is governments, education, economies should come together, because we can't leave people out. We cannot afford to leave any population out. So government have to change, because government is still a central entity that controls a lot of stuff. When I say control, I mean like govern, like not in a
Yes.
control sense.
Mm.
And then education is going to be even more important, because what I was taught in school, probably half of it may not be even relevant anymore. What else should I learn? What else should I teach to people? So education industry, and then economy. This is a big thing,
Mm.
because the way economy is structured is very industrial today, and that may not be the case before. So these three entities should work together. And when I say economy, that's where I put all the companies and everything
Yes.
in that bucket, and work for humans, right? All these three things should work for humans, not the other way around. Earlier, we were working on for all of these things without
Mm.
thinking who we are doing, but we have somebody else to work for us now. Like if we say AI gets really good at what it is trending towards, it can work for us. So now we will make it work for humans. All these three things coming together, like that's my vision, where it's not universal basic income that nobody goes to work and enjoys, but it is more you do the creative thing, you go after bigger problems, you go
Mm.
after bigger challenges that collectively lift the whole thing.
And I love that. vision, and I find it very inspiring also because it gives agency back to people
Yes,
at
to the
any
people.
level of the system.
Yes, to the
Mm,
people. Yeah.
mm. What, Bala, you've done so much in your professional and personal life already. What's the most transformative thing you have ever done?
What transformative thing for me personally, I'm very proud of, and that also transformed me is
Mm,
teaching in a public school. Me going to primary school in a area that was underinvested, not funded
hmm
school, and going and talking to the kids whose parents were not even, I would say, first gen graduates, probably not having English as their first language in an English speaking country, which is a disadvantage. And getting them the exposure to technology and how the world works and seeing them grow, like that's more personally transformational for me. And also I found that I was able to contribute to transform their lives or touch their lives in some ways, like someone who was doing a third grade going to fourth and fifth grade, coming out to be much more, I would say, aware of the technology and ability to use technology. That is something I'm very proud of what I do. Again, this is a volunteering activity, so there's not about incentives what I get, but that gratification, that long-term uh, thing I can always look back to and be proud of. And I want more people to do that because it's really eye-opening, and it'll make you more humble. It'll make you realize, oh, what are we doing? And looking at those kids always reminds me, what are we doing in our day job every day?
Yeah.
Because we are creating a world for them. Like they are
Yes.
your future, you are going to hand over your world to.
Mm,
So asking, oh, is this what I want to be doing? Looking at those 3 year old, like, sorry, third grade,
mm,
8 year old, and how they are looking at the world and what are we leaving them.
mm.
That's been my guiding factor as well.
Yeah. There's nothing more important than what we're leaving behind us as a legacy for the generations coming in, is there?
Yes.
Yeah. And would you have a final call to action, Bala, for our listeners around your vision? And if they're sat there in their organizations, as a lot of leaders are at the moment, thinking about how do I use AI? What does it mean for my team? What does it mean for my organization? And how do I get started? What would your call to action be?
My call to action would be, first is be curious, because there is so much happening and it's very hard to stay on top of everything. So it's gonna create a burnout and everything, right? But only thing you can do is be curious. Be curious about what it is, how is it evolving. That will be good enough. Because sometimes we shut down thinking, oh, I know, or
Yeah,
oh, I don't want to know,
yeah,
right? We go into one of these zones.
either or, yeah.
Yeah, but be curious, and that will guide you and show you the next step. So, and then get your hands dirty, right? Like if you have, I'm sure now pretty much people who are having some form of digital access will have exposure to AI in some other form. Like try to play with it. So the more you know something, the better you will feel about it. Like the fear of unknown will be gone, but be curious. Like that's the only
Mm,
thing I would say.
excellent. Thank you. I'm going to leave our listeners with be curious, but also get your hands dirty.
Yes.
Do the small jobs as well.
Yes.
Bala, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories and your insights. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Oh, did I lose you?
I think you may have lost me.
Oh, hello.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. I was just saying thank you for coming and sharing your insights and your stories and your experience. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for having me, and
Been a
also it was
pleasure.
really a good conversation. People can find me at my website, balamuthiah.com, and there's some contact to reach me. I'm happy to chat anytime, and I'm also working uh, with a partner of mine to come up with a think tank to talk about topics like this, more to engage and see how we can bring the community together. It's not purely technology, right? It's everything else.
Mhm.
So how do we start these conversations? It's not that we have solutions, but we want people to start thinking about the questions.
Yeah. Collective wisdom. I like that. So
Yes.
watch this space for when that will come out, but I will put your website in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot.
Bala.